All right, we're live. I think we're live. Hello, 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 and welcome to the Cells and Circuits weekly tech news stream. I think we got a lot of good stuff to go over this week. If you're new here, I really appreciate it. Or if you've been down from the beginning, also really appreciate you. Um, But either way, please like the video, subscribe, and we can just get started on the tech news for the week. And I think the biggest one, the biggest ones we'll get into first, but we'll also get into some smaller um, tech news as well. So in fact, I can also pull up just one more story that I wanted to get into because I just thought of it. So, um, hang on one sec. All right, there we go. So we're back. Um, I just thought of a new story that we could put into the show. So, we'll but for now, let's just jump right into the first story that we have. And that would be about the Digital Markets Act. So, for those of you who don't know, the Digital Markets Act is a law from the European Union that is forcing big tech companies to kind of open up their services and not become monopolies in certain areas. And so the big ones that are and so the big tech companies that are being targeted towards this or that are being targeted by the Digital Markets Act are Alphabet, aka Google, Amazon, Apple, ByteDance, Meta, and Microsoft. So the EU kind of has its sights set on those particular companies. And if we take a look at if we take a look at the European Commission's official official like article about the Digital Markets Act, um, it says, or in fact, instead of just telling you, why don't I just show you? So let me go ahead and do that. All right, let's do that. So this is the EU's, or you can see the European Commission right there. Um, this is the EU's website where they kind of list out what companies and which services fall under the gatekeeper designation. So, as you can see, the gatekeepers that they identified were Alphabet, otherwise known as Google, um, Amazon, Apple, ByteDance, Meta, and Microsoft. So, all of these companies have a monopoly in some way, according to the EU. So if we go on, or if we look at the graphic that they put on here, you'll notice that under the social networks, there are TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Um, TikTok being owned by ByteDance, Facebook and Instagram owned by Meta, and LinkedIn owned by Microsoft. And so the EU kind of determined that they are monopolies in some way, shape, or form, even if it doesn't really seem like they're a monopoly. Because TikTok, I mean, yes, it's one of the only social media sites of its kind. I mean, I'm not on there, but from what I've heard of it, um, it's one of the only social networks of its kind, and it's already carved out its own share of the market. And other tech companies like Meta, like Alphabet, are trying to catch up with their own versions of TikTok, like Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts in Alphabet's case. Um, and so like it's interesting to see like what the EU defines as a monopoly. And then Facebook and Instagram, obviously, are they're both owned by Meta, and they both have at least a billion users or a billion monthly active users. So it makes sense why those two would be counted as monopolies. But LinkedIn is a professional social media site. And I guess there aren't really any other ones that are as big as LinkedIn. I know there's Polywork, but I'm not sure of any others. Let me know of any other professional social media networks in the description, or not in the description, but in the comments, um, or even in the live chat. But yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is definitely, or has definitely captured the market. Um, and then so let's also go into the NIICS, which I have no idea of what that stands for. Um, let's see. Does it say? Hmm. No, it doesn't say. But I'm gonna assume that these are messaging apps, because WhatsApp and Messenger are both messaging apps. They're owned by Meta, and they both have a pretty significant market share. The one big omission from this section is actually iMessage, owned by Apple. So that's very surprising that they didn't find iMessage a gatekeeper, though I guess it makes sense because iMessage isn't as popular in the EU as it is in or here in the US. So it makes sense that iMessage or isn't considered a gatekeeper or a core platform service in the EU. But I would have thought that it would have made, or that it would have at least some sort of a market share in order to be considered a gatekeeper or a core platform service in the EU. And then we can also look into the intermediation category, which this is, I'm guessing, just like general um, apps that have a monopoly in some way, shape, or form. So with Google Maps, or you have Google Maps, Google Play, and Google Shopping, all owned by Alphabet. And then you also have Amazon Marketplace, which, as the name implies, is owned by Amazon. You have the App Store owned by Apple, and then you have the Meta Marketplace, which is interesting. And as the name implies, is owned by Meta. So we can go through each of these. Google Maps makes a lot of sense. A lot of people use Google Maps. I definitely use Google Maps because it's really, or since I have an Android phone, I have a Pixel 7 Pro here. Um, it's the default Maps app. Um, but then Google also owns Waze, which I also use. So, um, but I guess I guess Waze doesn't have as big of a market share as Google Maps does. Or maybe, the EU kind of lumps in Waze into Google Maps. I don't know. They're not very clear on that, but Google Maps, I can see why it's categorized as a monopoly because it just has an insane market share. And that's why companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and others, or Apple even, are trying to compete with Google Maps. So I can understand why that is a monopoly. And then you have the Google Play Store, which is the official way of getting applications onto your Android device. Any other way is not considered official, and Google kind of puts roadblocks in place to try and stop you from doing that. You can still do it, unlike on iOS, but Google kind of discourages you from doing that, and it does it in ways that aren't really that friendly to the consumer. So definitely understand why Google Play, or the Google Play Store, part of part of this core platform service designation. And then Google Shopping. I didn't know I didn't know how many people use Google Shopping, but if it's enough to, or for the EU to designate it as a core platform service, then it's got to be a lot. Amazon, I expected, it's Amazon, like, many people use it, so it's just, like, super convenient, but it's also, um they're also very, how do I put this? There are also some, ethical risks of using it, especially if you have Prime, where you get, like, free 2-day shipping and all of that. Um, it's not that great for the workers over there, but or it's great for the consumer, but it's not so great for the employees that work at the Amazon warehouses. So something to keep in mind when you shop with your Prime benefits. Um, and then you have the Apple App Store. Like I mentioned earlier, unlike on Android, you cannot side load any applications onto your iPhone or iPad um, from anywhere that isn't the App Store. So it's pretty obvious to see um, why the EU designated the App Store as a core platform service or as a gatekeeper. And then you have the Meta marketplace, um, which I'm assuming they mean the ad marketplace for Meta. And between them and Alphabet or Google, I can understand why the EU would, um, or I can understand why the EU would designate them as a gatekeeper or a core platform service because you don't really have many other options and they're so intertwined with pretty much everything you do on the web, both Meta and Google. So yeah, I can understand why the Meta marketplace was um was designated as a gatekeeper or a core platform service. I'm surprised Google's ad business isn't, or wait, actually it is. It's right there. Never mind. Forget I said that. Um, so yeah, I can understand why Meta Marketplace is part of this. And then as far as ads go, Google, or you have Google, Amazon, and Meta. I feel like I don't really need to explain why they're designated as gatekeepers. Google obviously has the largest ad network of all three of them, but Amazon and Meta have pretty big ad networks themselves. So it's not too surprising that they're listed here. And then let's go to video sharing. So you have YouTube owned by Alphabet or Google, and it's no surprise there. I mean, YouTube doesn't really have any, or it doesn't have a competitor that's even close to its market share. So, I mean, YouTube kind of has almost a monopoly on user generated video. So, not too surprising. And then as far as search goes, you have Google search. Again, not surprising. Google is the most used search engine by a long shot, so it's not surprising that it's there. Um, though I'm sure Bing is probably um, eating up some of their market share a little bit with the new AI tools that they have, but they have a long way to go in terms of ever reaching Google's market share. Um, and then in terms of browsers, we have Chrome and Safari. So Chrome is definitely the most used browser. So that's not really surprising. And Google kind of keeps roadblocks in in its browser to try and get you to use it. Um, to or Yeah, to get you to use it or to get you to not switch from Chrome to another browser. And then as far as Safari goes, you have Safari on your, or I believe that's the default messenger on iOS. Um, you can install other browsers on Mac, um, but as far as iOS goes, that's probably the reason why it's there. Um, so not too surprising that both Chrome and Safari are on here. Um, and it's gotten to the point where, like, in terms of Chrome, so many other browsers use Chrome or the Chromium engine. And for those of you who don't know, it's the web engine, or it's the backend that Chrome runs on. Other browsers use it too. Google definitely open sourced it, but or especially like Edge uses it. Vivaldi uses it. Who else? Opera. Um, gosh, there's so many. There's so many that use Chromium. So, and they're all different flavors um of the Chromium engine. So it's kind of like Chrome, but if this company built it, or Chrome if this other company built it. So yeah, not surprising that both Chrome and Safari are on here. But last but not least, let's go to the operating systems. And we have Google Android. It's interesting that they didn't just put Android, but you have Google Android, and then you have iOS, and then you have Windows as far as PCs go. Um, so Android and iOS are the most used mobile operating systems. So, or everyone you know, if you or if they have a smartphone, either has an Android phone or an iPhone. Um, Very rarely, and I mean extremely rarely, will you see someone who has a non-Android or a non-iOS operating system on their phone. So it's not surprising that those two are there. Um, but then with Windows PCs, it's also not surprising. Windows has a majority market share in terms of PC operating systems. So, I mean, Macs have definitely gotten more popular, but they're not nearly to the level of Windows PCs market share or Windows market share. And then you also have like Chromebooks as well. Um, and then there are certain Linux computers as well. But none of those even come close to the power that Windows has over the market. It's so none of these are surprising. The only surprises that I know of are the NIICS category, which I'm surprised iMessage isn't part of that. But when you think about it more, it makes sense why it's not there. Um, and Apple is definitely fighting to keep iMessage off of this list. Um, so, um, so that'll be interesting to see because if iMessage ends up getting on this list, then maybe it'll be forced to support something like RCS, which is the next generation texting standard that Android already uses and that Google is definitely pushing for Apple to adopt. Um, but as of right now, Apple does not support RCS. It supports plain SMS and MMS, which don't use or which don't have high quality text messaging or high quality videos and image support. So yeah, I just don't I just don't know if iMessage is even going to be part of this. Um, as far as whether or not Bing will be part of the search category, I don't think so. It doesn't it doesn't nearly have as big of a market share as Google. So yeah, there's that. Um, but what else? Um, I believe that should do it for that topic. So I can stop sharing my screen and kind of gauge what your opinion is on the Digital Markets Act. Do you think that it's going to make a difference in terms of like how these services work and how interoperable they can be? Definitely let me know in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this on demand. Um, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And hang on, let me also just send, or let me also just send a quick. If I can find it. All right. So our next topic, let's see, Google Pixel 8 series. And so for those of you who aren't in the know, every year this happens, especially with especially with the Google Pixel series. Like, I think launch or phone launches that are completely secretive are a thing of the past. And these leaks actually come from Google themselves. So the Pixel 8 Pro is coming up very soon. In fact, their event will be on October 4th. And this story comes from The Verge, where Google basically leaked their entire Pixel 8 Pro lineup on their website. And if you if you look at the back of these phones, I mean, you obviously have a black, a blue, which is interesting, and a silver, or I mean, can you really call this white? I would say this is silver. let me know if it's silver or white in the comments. But I mean, honestly, I like the unified visor or the unified camera visor. If you look at the Pixel 7 Pro, which I have right here, okay, you can see it. Um, the camera visor is split in two, um, but I like the I like the unified camera visor of the Pixel 8 Pro. Um, it looks nice, and if you look at the front, looks like pretty much any other Android phone these days. They all look very similar. Any or I should specify any non-folding Android phone. Like most of them look pretty similar. The only difference between some Android phones nowadays is where the hole punch is placed, but other than that, from the front, like most of them look the same. Um, but they also have some, or you can see the Pixel software, and that's really the difference between it and other Android phones is the software. Google's been really nice with updating the software um and it's kind of or with Material You, it's been really focused on personalization. So if you've got like say a wallpaper, it'll match the theming um with that wallpaper. So it's pretty nice. I enjoy using it on my Pixel 7 Pro. And I'm sure there'll be some exclusive features to the Pixel 8 series. Um, but we'll see. And then also, you also have or one thing that the website didn't leak were the specs. So as the article mentions, there's still room for more Pixel leaks over the coming month, and I'm sure they'll happen as they've happened within the past few years, or I think even since the Pixel line started, there have been just leaks upon leaks upon leaks of Pixel stuff. Um, but one thing I am happy that the Pixel 8 Pro leaks have confirmed basically um, is that the SIM card slot is remaining. So that's a good thing because it makes switching phones easier. Um, for those of you who don't know or haven't been into Apple stuff, which I haven't really covered Apple stuff, but we'll quickly talk about them. Um, Apple removed the SIM card slot in the iPhone 14 series, so the current phones, but or so they or so I think that's a move that's meant to kind of keep you in or keep you locked into your iPhone, at least in the US. I think in other countries they kept the SIM card slot, but in the US, um, there's no SIM card slot for the iPhones. It relies on eSIM only. So I'm glad Google isn't doing that. I'm sure they'll do that with a future Pixel phone, whether it's the Pixel 9 or the Pixel 10 or whatever. But I'm glad that at least as of right now, it's staying. Um, and so And so, like, in addition to all of these leaks on Pixel stuff, you also have the you also have like kind of the features and the hardware that's built into the phone that's been leaked, and that or Google's website kind of showed where all of those like hardware features are located on the device. So, and it also shows like the different color options from different angles. So we can take a look at these. So you have like the NFC sensor on the middle of the back here, or towards the middle of the back here. You have the temperature sensor. Someone made a joke about that on Twitter, or on the platform formerly known as Twitter. Um, where if the if the phone overheats in your hand, you can actually use a temperature sensor um to determine the temperature of your hand. I thought that was pretty funny, and I can link that once this stream goes on demand. um and then you also have the LED flash. You have the rear facing camera, or the wide lens, or the wide angle camera. And then you also have the microphone. Oh, okay. I didn't know the microphone was in there. Oh, you have the ultra wide, and then the 5x telephoto lens. And then you have the volume rocker. And I'm assuming this one is the power button. Um, and then you have the SIM card tray on the left side of the phone. So that's nice. I'm glad that's staying. Or you have the top microphone, or the little hole in there, and then you have the millimeter wave antenna cover, and there's the bottom speaker, the bottom microphone, the USB-C port, and then you have in black and silver. I'm still calling it silver. I don't know what the official names of these colors are, but I'm just going to say blue, black, and silver. So these are all of the photos of just showing off the phone at different angles, in all colors. So I'm just gonna let y'all have a good look at those. I will say the blue does look pretty nice. Um, but I'm a simple man. Or if I were to get a Pixel 8 Pro, I would get it in black. That's just me. Let me know what color you would get your Pixel 8 Pro in the comments. Definitely want to, or definitely want to get some conversation going in terms of all of these different leaks of the Pixel 8 Pro. Um, and so moving on, or we're switching gears. So now we're going to get into kind of more gaming centric tech. So first up, we got to talk about, or first up for the gaming section, we got to talk about the new PlayStation Portal handheld that Sony's coming out with. So, for those of you who don't know, PlayStation is coming out with the PlayStation Portal. It's a remote play device. It kind of looks like a dual sense controller sliced in half, with a screen in the middle. Um, like I imagine somewhere, some way, like um, some concept artist got the design of this exactly right. Um, it wouldn't surprise me because this looks like it's a concept device. Um, like you know what I'm talking about, those weird like Xbox 720 kind of concept devices, or this feels like that. But anyway, the PlayStation Portal is a remote play device for your PS5. So you have to have a PS5 in order to use this. Excuse me. Um, so this is a handheld that is $200, and it's a remote play device where you can stream gameplay from your PS5 to this device. Um, and it also has the benefit of having your like, or because it's a dual sense controller split in half, it has the haptics of the dual sense. So you have those adaptive triggers. um I don't know if you can blow into it. That is so weird. But you can, so you have like the haptic feedback, you have the adaptive triggers. I'm sure those will be in there. I'm not sure if you can like blow into the controller or the PlayStation Portal, like you can with a regular DualSense. Um, but yeah, you can stream PlayStation 5 games to this device via remote play, and then or whether you're in the house or whether you're um out and about. Though I imagine when you're streaming this outside of your home, there'll be like latency issues, they'll prob or well, yeah, latency issues, and it'll depend on your internet connection. Because I can't imagine this being a great experience at like a hotel or something like that, since you can't play games natively on that device. But I will say that it is, or that the screen looks nice. It's an 8-inch 1080p 60 frames per second screen. So that does look nice. Um, and I'm sure it will be. I'm not trying to pick one up for myself, just because I don't have the funds to do that right now. Though, if that changes, maybe I'll pick one up to review it. Definitely let me know if that's something you want to see. Um, but for now, I think, or I think I'll pass on this one. And also, um, another con about this device is that it doesn't have Bluetooth. So you can't connect Bluetooth headphones to the PlayStation Portal and use those. You would have to use um the Pulse, what's it called? The Pulse Explore wireless headset. Um let's see. Or let me double check, because Sony hasn't really, or I don't think you can pre-order the earbuds or the headphones just yet, but you can pre-order the PlayStation Portal. So that goes on sale November 15th. Um, but you can pre-order it now, and you can reserve yours. I I gotta be honest, I don't really need one of these. I'm sure there'll be a lot of good reviews on them. Um, but but I'm just not seeing I'm not seeing a use case where this applies to me or where this would be useful to me when I can just use my phone and a backbone controller or my phone and a dual sense controller and a phone clip and get pretty much the same experience. Um, I'm sure the most interesting thing about this is that people will probably find ways to hack this thing and install maybe like Android on it. That'll be interesting because then if you hack it and install Android on it, then you can use it to play not only PlayStation remote play, but also you can play things like Xbox Cloud Gaming, GeForce Now, Amazon Luna, and even some native Android games at like medium or low settings, depending on the hardware that's in there. But you could actually play some like native Android games on it if you hack it. And I'm sure there'll be like some people who find a way to hack it. So, yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on the PlayStation Portal. Um, Personally, I don't see a use case for this for me. There may be people who actually do find a use case for this, um, especially parents. I could see using this when their kids want to watch the TV, or maybe their significant other wants to watch the TV, but they want to play some games still. I could see this being very useful for that. I could also see a use case where, like, you may not want to run down your phone's battery health, and instead want a dedicated device to play remote play. And the PlayStation is your main console that you use. Because if it's not, then you can really, or if the PlayStation is not your main console, then this same effect that the PlayStation Portal can have for you can also be achieved with a backbone controller attached to your phone, or you can even plug that backbone controller into your tablet and have a bigger screen. Um, the only things you'll miss out on are the dual sense features. Um, and for some people, that might be worth it. For others, that may not be worth it. I can understand either one. But yeah, I think that'll do it for the PlayStation Portal. Let me know if you want, or if you want to see me kind of review this thing. If so, I'll find a way to do it when it comes out. But next up, or we can talk about some more gaming handheld news. So we actually have two gaming handhelds to talk about. Well, actually, I can add a third one. Hang on. Let me add a third one because there is another one that I want to talk about. Let's see. If I can find it. Ah, yes. There we go. There we go. All right. So let's jump right into the next topic, and that is another gaming handheld. So for those of you who don't know, the or a company called Ioneo, which has been making gaming handhelds for quite a long time, but they've been mainly in the x86 PC space. Um, they're now making their first Android handheld, which will be powered by an ARM chip. So, excuse me. So Ioneo introduced the Pocket Air, and the Pocket Air is a handheld that is powered by Android and um, will also be powered by a MediaTek Dimensity 1200 chip, and it's also the first. Excuse me. It is the first um, handheld in the Android space with Hall sensing joysticks and Hall sensing triggers. Um, and so there are a lot of cool things about this handheld that no other handheld does. So personally, um, I've been eyeing this handheld ever since Ioneo announced it. It's it's looking like a pretty promising handheld um, or a handheld console that runs Android. And the only other the only mainstream ones that we've gotten in the Android or on the Android side of things are the Logitech G Cloud and the Razer Edge. And the Logitech G Cloud, I like that device. It's a really awesome device, but the processor is kind of its Achilles heel. And I get it. The Logitech G Cloud was meant to be or more of a cloud gaming device, but cloud gaming is cloud gaming is now or you know what? I'll say it. Cloud gaming is kind of boring now, ever since Stadia died. But so not a lot of people have been very interested in cloud gaming. Though though the Logitech G Cloud can at least play native Android games if you want to do that too, just at lower settings because of the um, lower tier chip that's inside of it. So it's so Yeah, the Logitech G Cloud is just or it's a good device, but it's also overpriced. I believe Logitech sells it for like $300, and that's too close. That's still too close in price to something like the Steam Deck, which for like what 20 or so dollars more, you can get a refurbished Steam Deck and be able to play PC games natively on that device. So it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense at $300. And then you also have on the other side of the spectrum the Razer Edge, which costs the same amount as a Steam Deck, but runs Android and also just does or because it runs Android doesn't have that level of capability to run certain games. Like you can't do or you can't emulate something like PS3 on the Razer Edge, but you can do that for or on something like the Steam Deck. So it's interesting. Now we have a device that is or that costs a little or a little bit less than the Logitech G Cloud, but can or has enough power to play a lot of Android games natively as well as do cloud gaming, um, and at a price that, is not terrible, but when you consider another handheld that I'll be talking about in a minute, it's not great, in comparison. So, let's just go through the price real quick. So, for the 6 gigabyte of RAM and 128 gigabyte of storage option, we're looking at 299 because the early bird units have already sold out. So we can already just eliminate this leftmost column here. So so you're looking at 299, so $300 for the base model, 6 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. And then you also have the 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage option for $80 more at $379 or $380 if you buy that during the Indiegogo retail period, which is going on right now. And then you also have the 12 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage option for $459 US or $460. So it's interesting. I didn't I didn't think it would cost this much, especially with the chip that they're using. But it's not it's not terrible. Because I imagine it's a little bit more powerful than something like the Logitech G Cloud, but less powerful than like the Razer Edge or something like that. So, or but you do also get like some of the niceties of having an Aya Neo device, like the Hall sensing joysticks and triggers, um, like the large battery, and stuff like that. Because I think Aya Neo has this form factor really nailed down in terms of handhelds. Like if we go to Aya Neo's website, which I can show you real quick. So so yeah, if you go on Ioneo's website, you see that they have a lot of handhelds like the Pocket Air. We have the Ioneo Kun, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you also have the Air 1S, which is literally the same exact form factor. Uh, Um, I don't know if the dimensions are the same, but they're very, very similar in form factor. And then you also have all of these other handhelds that Ioneo makes. It's a lot. And then you also have like the Ioneo, or they've also announced some new ones that are coming out, like the Ioneo Pocket S. There it is, the Ioneo Pocket S, which doesn't look like it's going to be very comfortable to hold. Um, and then recently on social media, Ioneo announced the Pocket Flip, which is a clamshell handheld. Um, so think of it like a handheld PC in the form of like a laptop. That's basically what it is. It's like a mini laptop. Um, so yeah, that's iNeo for you with the iNeo Pocket Air. I might still get one. Um, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it um, in their Indiegogo campaign, I'll definitely I'll definitely get one to at least try out and test it, because I'm interested in this device. I like the color scheme. It has the Famicom, I believe it's called, color scheme, and I just like the white and the red. Um, though if it were me, um, it would be awesome if they made a black version of this, though I'm not sure if they will, but it would be nice to have a black version of this, with the red accents and stuff like that. I think that would be calling my name. But yeah, let me know what you think of the iNeo Pocket Air. Are you looking forward to it? Are you going to skip this one? Or are you waiting for other options to hit the market? And speaking of other options, let's go to the iNeo Pocket Air's closest competitor, and that is the AYN Odin 2. So, so for those of you who don't know, iNeo's competitor in this space, a company called AYN, um, made an Odin, or made the first Odin, which I actually have. I can show it to you. Let's see. Hang on. All right. So iNeo's competitor, AYN, made a device called the Odin, which I don't know if you can see it, but I bought this in, or I placed my pre-order in 2021, and I got it in early 2022. And I really like this device. It's a pretty or it's a pretty nice Android handheld. Um I got it in atomic purple so you can see kind of the insides of it a little bit. Or it's pretty transparent. Um but I really like this device. It's got a nice form factor. especially if you have smaller hands. Um, if you have bigger hands, it can be a little bit cramped to hold, and I can understand that. But it's a pretty simple and a very performant Android handheld. Even today, even though the chipset in it is, or it was dated when it came out, it had the Snapdragon 845, or this model, the Odin Pro, had a Snapdragon 845 when it came out, and that chipset was already like what 3 years old or something like that when it came out. Um, but but even now, it's still one of the best Android handhelds that you could find, or that's or one of the best Android handhelds that exists. So the Odin 2, I am actually looking forward to. The only downside to it, for me at least, is that the ABXY buttons are in the Nintendo layout. Um, on my Android devices, I like to play things like cloud gaming um, and native Android games. And I found that the thing that works best for me is the Xbox layout. So I like having that Xbox layout. I've been used to it. So so it is kind of a bummer that the Odin 2 has has the Nintendo layout, but I can understand why is because it's aimed at primarily emulation of older, especially Nintendo consoles. Um, so so like it makes sense that it would have like the Nintendo layout. And that was even the case with the Odin 1. Um, this this bad boy here actually had Nintendo buttons, or the button layout was actually the Nintendo layout before I had modified it and gotten some custom um, or I gotten some custom buttons that are actually in the Xbox layout. So I also modified the there we go. I also modified the sticks. They now use Hall sensing joysticks. So now I never have to worry about drift anymore. So that's pretty nice. Um, I don't think the Odin 2 has Hall sensing joysticks, but we can double check, or we can double check together. That's the beauty of this. Um, so Um, so the main claim to fame of the Odin 2 is that it's going to have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 CPU. And so that's the highest tier processor that you can find in Android phones nowadays. For and like the cheapest Android phone with that processor costs like what we're looking like what $700 or so. So to get a device with that same CPU in it for let's see 293 US dollars, like that's really compelling. And definitely puts the Ioneo Pocket Air that I had just talked about on notice. Um, Personally, I think Ioneo should kind of just drop the price of that, but that's just me. Oh, wait. It actually, or now that I look at Now look at this graphic here. It does say that it'll have Hall sensing sticks, so that's good. I'm glad they're finally introducing Hall sensing sticks into the Odin 2. Um, that was absent from the Odin 1, at least out of the box. Um, the way I modded mine was I just gotten some Switch Joy-Con drop-in replacement sticks, and I just done it that way. I just replaced the sticks that were already in there with Hall sensing sticks. So I'm glad I won't have to do that if I chose to get the Odin 2, which I actually might do over the iNeo Pocket Air. Um, it also has a fingerprint sensor, so that'll be nice for unlocking and locking your device. Um, it has an 8,000 milliamp hour battery, which is larger than the 7350 in the iNeo Pocket Air. Um, what else? It's got, let's see. Oh, it has front firing speakers this time. The Odin one had downward firing speakers. So it'll be nice to hopefully hear the audio actually beam towards you. And maybe that'll increase the quality of it somehow. Um, we have analog triggers for L2 and R2. It doesn't say that there'll be Hall sensing, so excuse me. I'm guessing they won't be Hall sensing triggers, but we do have Hall sticks, as I mentioned, and then there's the Super Dock, which um, which will be used to allow you to dock it to a TV setup. So it looks like the dock will be much smaller than the one that came with the Odin 1. And I can actually show you the dock that came with the Odin 1. So, right here, I don't know if you can see it. Let me stop presenting. So, this is the dock that came with the Odin 1. As you can see, it's a big chonky boy. Um, On the side, you have like I believe it's a Nintendo 64 um, controller port, as well as an HDMI port. And then on the other side, you have another Nintendo 64 controller port. Um, and then on the front, you have the um, or actually no, I think I think these two, or I'm not sure which Nintendo console ports um these are, but the point is you can connect classic Nintendo console controllers to these special ports and play your emulated Nintendo games on there. So they really made it a point to focus on emulation. And you can kind of see it with the Odin 2, like I mentioned with the Switch layout. Or you can emulate different Nintendo games or Nintendo consoles on that. But here you have like two USB 3.0 ports. And then on the back, ooh, yeah, let's clean that off. We have three more USB 3.0 ports. You also have an HDMI port, a USB-C port, and then an Ethernet port over here. Um, but yeah, it's a huge, chunky boy of a dock. Oh, and then you can also put a 2.5-inch drive in here. So if you wanted to store more games or something like that, you could do that. Um, and then there's a mini HDMI port right here. So you have lots of options in order to connect different things to the Odin Super Dock. But it looks like for the dock that comes with the Odin 2, you actually have like less you have less ports, but it keeps things more simple, and keeps things smaller. And I think there's something to be said about that. It's much great for traveling with it. Um, if you wanted to, take this dock to, say, like a hotel um or just some other person's, or like a relative's house or something like that. You wanted to dock it to a TV or a monitor. You can do that way easier with this dock than the dock that came with the Odin 1. Um, so yeah, that's pretty nice. But let me know what you think of the Odin 2. Oh, we forgot to go over the color options. There's a transparent blue, transparent purple, there's black, there's cold gray, which is the SNES themed um, colorway, and then there's a white version. Um, It'll come with Android 13 out of the box, so that's nice that it actually brings an updated version of Android. Um, Now, when it comes out, I'm sure Android 14 will be out by then, and we may even, or depending on AYN's track record, we may even be getting closer to Android 15 when this device releases. But it's still nice that at least a modern version of Android will come onto this thing at launch. And since it has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, it can be updated to future versions of Android. And that's another weakness of the Odin 1, is that because it had a 3-year-old chip inside it, there's only there was only so long that Qualcomm was able to support that chip, and so this AYN Odin 1 doesn't have um or it has Android 10, I believe, which is already 3 versions out of date. So it doesn't even get like the security patches or anything anymore. Um, so at least that problem will be somewhat alleviated with the Odin 2. Um, I just hope that AYN actually ends up supporting this device and gets the updates up to snuff. But yeah, let me know what you think of the AYN Odin 2 um, in the chat, or if you're watching on demand, let me know in the comments. But moving on, um, we can actually go to our last topic, and that's yet another handheld um, that got released, or that got well, yeah, got released, and that is the Ioneo Kun. Now, the Ioneo Kun, if you look at it from the front, it looks kind of like a Steam Deck, but with a bigger screen and with a circular D-pad. But the Ioneo Kun is actually a handheld with a 8.4-inch screen, and an AMD's uh, Ryzen 7840U chip. So it's more powerful than the one that's in the Steam Deck, and I think it's just as powerful, if not maybe a little bit more, than the one that's in the ROG Ally or the Asus ROG Ally. And so that one, or so this handheld, um, it's or it looks pretty cool. I would say, um, don't know if I would use the trackpads other than like navigating windows, because it has two trackpads, just like the Steam Deck, but it runs Windows. So, and as those of you who have an ROG Ally or any other Windows handheld know, um, Windows is definitely not made for the handheld form factor. So, those trackpads will probably come in good use when navigating Windows. Um, and so the price of this thing, that's where the kind of Achilles heel of it is, because Ioneo doesn't have the scale of like an Asus or a Lenovo or even Valve for that matter. Um, and so it can't afford to take much of a loss these on these handheld devices. Whereas with Valve, they earn money from Steam, or they earn 30% of all non first party titles on Steam. So they're able to actually take a loss on the hardware and make up that money in software sales through the Steam store. And then as far as like Asus or even Lenovo with their Legion Go, which we can actually fit that into this into this episode, or into this stream right here. But yeah, as far as that company goes, like Lenovo, because they make so many devices and they already have that scale built out, they can actually sell it at a cheaper price, because they have the manufacturing down and everything like that. Um, and they can make a lot of these in bulk. So Ioneo doesn't have that scale that Lenovo has. So they have to make a profit on every single device. So that's why the prices are as high as they are. Like this early bird price for this Black Feather edition of the Ioneo Kun is 999. That's $1,000. Um, so yeah, that is a wild price. And then it'll only get more expensive as time goes on. So if you are not in the early bird tier, and you go into the Indiegogo retail price tier, that's $1,129 or $1,130, which is bananas. That's just wild. Um, would I pay that much for a handheld? Probably not. But I'm glad they exist. I'm glad these handhelds exist. Um, just to show what could be in terms of performance, and in terms of also form factor and just uh, just more competition in the handheld PC space is always a good thing, or really in any market is always a good thing. So definitely love encouraging that. And so yeah, I mean, or let's move on to also talk about like kind of what you're getting with this handheld here. So you're getting like of course Hall sensing joysticks and triggers, which I mean for Aya Neo devices is kind of par for the course, as I talked about with the Pocket Air earlier. That has both Hall sensing joysticks and triggers. Um, but as I said earlier, it has a AMD Ryzen 7 7840U processor. Um, it even has oh, this is interesting. It has Windows Hello support with face recognition. So that's interesting, because I don't think any other handheld has that. I think they only have like fingerprint sensors. I know the Asus ROG Ally has the fingerprint sensor, and some other iNeo PC handhelds have fingerprint sensors. So it's nice to see that one has a Windows Hello face sensor in it. But then we also, or it's interesting that this one has ex or is expandable to support 4G networks, because not a lot of handhelds support 4G, or even 5G for that matter. Um, the only other handheld that I can think of that supports 5G is is the Razer Edge, and that's a Verizon exclusive, if you get that. Um, are there any other handhelds that support either 4G or 5G? Definitely let me know, because I could be off base here. But in the meantime, we also have a 75 watt hour battery. Um, and we have like a dish style D-pad, which I don't know. I'm I like the like regular cross style D-pads. Um, but it seems like the dish style D-pads are becoming the norm. And really like the main controller that uses it is the Xbox controller, or at least the Xbox Series controller that uses it. But there have been other handhelds on the market that use the dish style D-pad. I know the Asus ROG Ally uses a dish style D-pad. Um, and there have been some other handhelds that use the dish style D-pads as well. So, yeah, I mean, It's so this Aya Kun has a lot of different features, and they could appeal to um they could appeal to people. I think there's a place in the market for this device. Though, do I think a lot of people are going to buy it? No. And that's mainly because of the price. But but I do see there being at least some like niche market of people who this device is really made for. And for them, I could totally see them getting that. But let me know. Is this something you would pick up? I would definitely, or I would definitely not pick it up, um, but I'm sure that there are some people who will. So let me know if it's something you'll pick up. And last but not least, let's talk about yet another handheld. It'll be the last handheld that we talk about for this video. Um, and that is the Lenovo Legion Go. So this one, I can already tell there are going to be some people interested in it. Um, so for those of you who don't know, Lenovo is putting its hat into the PC gaming handheld ring with the Legion Go handheld. So, as you can see from this video that's playing, um, it has detachable controllers like Joy Cons or like the Nintendo Switch Joy Cons. It also is a PC handheld, so it runs Windows, so you can play your Game Pass games natively on it, like Hi-Fi Rush or the newly released Starfield, um, or any other Game Pass game. But you can also access other stores like Steam, like Epic Games, like EA, Ubisoft, all those other ones. So that's nice, or that's the benefit of it having Windows as the operating system. But also, what's interesting is that, or we could get to the specs later. But what's interesting is that the right um, Joy-Con, which I'm just gonna call them Joy-Cons, even though I know they're not Joy-Cons. The right one can be used in what's called FPS mode. Um, and so it has like a little stand that you can put the controller in, and you can basically use, or you can use it for first person shooter um, games, and you can kind of aim as if you were aiming a mouse. And I think I think that's pretty cool. I think that's innovative. That's something that no other PC handheld, to include the Steam Deck, has done. I think that's something that's unique to only this handheld, at least for now. I'm sure other PC handheld manufacturers will copy it, but for now, I think this is a pretty innovative feature. Um, you can definitely, or you could definitely do a lot with that feature. Like I said, um, you can use it to aim in the first person shooter, and just like it has an extra button on the side that you can use as your fire button. So that's pretty cool. Um But yeah, FPS mode. Definitely let me know if you'll use that. They also announced like the Legion glasses, which are kind of AR glasses that you can use to put a screen or like a say like 100-inch screen right in front of your head once you put those glasses on. And I think that's pretty cool. Though I don't think it'll come in the box. I think you'll have to buy them separately because they really want to compete in price with something like the Asus ROG Ally, and including those AR glasses in the box would definitely hike up the price. So I don't think they'll include that in the box. Of course, you can use it in handheld mode. You can use it in detachable mode like you would with Nintendo Switch Joy Cons. But FPS mode is the most interesting mode that I think this handheld will enable. Um, but if we look at the specs, we can see that it has an 8.8-inch 10-point touchscreen. It's up to 144 hertz, so a higher refresh rate than the Asus ROG Ally's 120 hertz. It also has a 2560 by 1600 resolution. So I believe that's 16 by 10, which is the same aspect ratio as the Steam Deck, but not the same resolution. Um, and then it also has 97% of the DCI-P3 gamut. Now, I am no expert on screens, but I'm assuming that's good if they're willing to put that on or on the spec sheet prominently. And then it also has a 500 nit brightness, which is brighter than the Steam Deck. I'm not sure of the Asus ROG Ally, but I'm pretty sure it's brighter than the Steam Deck. And then you have the processor, which is the AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme. So same processor as the Asus ROG Ally. Um, I think that's pretty cool that it has that processor. I'm beginning to and we're seeing that this AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme and the regular Z1 will be the norm when it comes to handheld PC chips. Um, so yeah, same processor. So we should expect similar performance to the Asus ROG Ally. Um, And then as far as thermals goes, as up to a 20-watt TDP, I imagine it'll probably go higher than that because I think um, Asus, or at least for the ROG Ally, goes up to 35 watts in docked mode. So I'm sure if you dock it, it'll probably go higher than the advertised 20 watts. Um, And then as far as memory goes, it's 16 gigabytes of RAM for the base model, um, with 512 gigabytes of PCIe Gen 4 SSD, up to 1 terabyte. So there'll be two SKUs. There'll be a 512 gigabyte and a 1 terabyte option. Um, though both of them will have 16 gigabytes of RAM. And then there's a micro SD card slot that supports up to 2 terabyte cards. Um, Now, I don't think there are any 2 terabyte cards out right now, but Um, they're only like 1 terabyte, but 2 terabytes, that's pretty good. And then as far as the battery goes, you have a 49.2 watt hour battery capacity. So significantly less than something like the Ioneo Kun that I just talked about, um, which that has a 75 watt hour battery. Um, so yeah, significantly less than that. Um, but it has super rapid charge. So hopefully, as you're playing it, the battery will charge if you use the included charger. Um, and then as far as power bypass mode, so that is if you're plugged in, um, the handheld will be powered by the by the wall instead of using your battery, so that'll save your battery health. Um, so you're not using more charge cycles to top up the battery, and instead that power will be used to or that power that's generated from the wall will be used to power your gaming session. And I think that's pretty cool for battery health purposes. And then there's battery optimization support. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but I'm sure it'll offer similar battery optimization support to the ROG Ally. But I'm not sure what that will look like. But yeah, and as far as the pricing goes, so so here's the kicker for the pricing. If I can just pull up Best Buy. So they listed this handheld on Best Buy or last week when it was announced, and I think the pricing, is actually very good. So, let me close out of this tab and go to the Best Buy page. So, if we go to the Best Buy page, um, you'll see that the pricing is actually really competitive with the Asus ROG Ally. Excuse me. So for a 512 for the 512 gigabyte model with 16 gigs of RAM, that is 699, which is the exact same price as the ROG Ally, and I think that's fantastic. But the kicker here, which is even better, is that for just $50 more for 749.99 or $750, you can get 1 terabyte or you can get a 1 terabyte SSD. And I think that's awesome. So just $50 more, you can double the storage. So you won't really have to worry about storage all that much. And then if you want more storage, you can just get a micro SD card. I think that's a really compelling price. $750 for the 1 terabyte version. And I believe this is the first mainstream handheld, at least one that you can readily buy here in the US, um, that has a terabyte of storage in it because the ROG Ally does not have a terabyte of storage in it. You would have to make that upgrade yourself. Um, but the Lenovo Legion Go definitely has a terabyte of storage. Oh, the Steam Deck doesn't have a terabyte of storage. You would have to make that upgrade yourself if you wanted to, which I plan on making a 2 terabyte update or upgrade for my Steam Deck sometime in the future. So yeah, I'll definitely be doing that. But as far as like handheld PCs go, this is probably or this is looking like it's going to be one of the most powerful ones on the market. And so I'm interested to see how it does, and especially when it comes out, what people are saying about it. And um, if I didn't have both a Steam Deck and an ROG Ally, I would definitely be going for this. But um, as of right now, I am pretty content with my Steam Deck and ROG Ally. But yeah, let me know what you think of the Lenovo Legion Go. Um, and and let me know your thoughts on just the handheld PC space in general. Do you think there are way too many handhelds to keep up with? Are you waiting for something a little bit more powerful than the Legion Go or the iNeo Kun or any other PC handheld? Are you waiting for any Android handhelds uh, to go on sale? Are you interested in the PlayStation Portal remote play device? Let me know what your thoughts are on these handhelds because this handheld scene is really exploding and it's a lot. There's a lot to keep up with. So definitely let me know your thoughts. But we're coming up on or we're actually almost at 10 p.m. Eastern, so we're at 9:51. So I will stay on until 10, and then we can wrap it up. So if you have any like questions or if you have any topics or any tech topics that you want me to cover, let me know in the comments or in the chat. Love to hear your thoughts on it. But yeah, Or let me go ahead and show you guys the Ioneo Flip while we're here. So here's the Flip. It's a clamshell handheld um, that if you look at it closely, um, you can see you can see the or you can see the controls. You have the joystick, the D-pad, the start and select buttons. You have the Ioneo button. Don't know what that button is because I've never owned an Ioneo handheld before. And then you have your ABXY in the Xbox layout. Um, I believe there's a fingerprint sensor. One of these is a fingerprint sensor. Um, and then you, of course, have your keyboard, which will be nice when navigating Windows, because I imagine that's the operating system that this is going to be using. But yeah, Ioneo Flip. It'll probably have like the top notch specs that, excuse me, that Ioneo has to offer. So I would imagine similar specs or specifications to the Ioneo Coon that we mentioned earlier, but um, but in a clamshell form factor. And I think it looks pretty nice, except for maybe the outside. I would have liked to see. I would have liked for there to be at least a little bit more, or at least this oval. I don't know. The oval kind of isn't really doing it for me, but it is what it is. It looks like that's going to be the design of it. But let me know what your thoughts are on this Ioneo Flip and whether or not Ioneo is actually making too many handhelds. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this stream. I hope that you guys have actually, or I hope you found this stream either entertaining or useful to you if you've been looking at buying any of the products that I talked about. Hopefully, it's been useful to you. If so, definitely leave a like or leave a comment. I really appreciate it. And if you want more streams like this, be sure to subscribe. I'll do these every week. On Wednesday, of course, we have our animation news streams on Mondays. And then we have our gaming streams on Fridays and Saturdays over on Kick. So that'll be kick.com/cells and circuits. Be sure to follow us there too. I'll definitely be streaming on Friday and Saturday with or on Kick. So be sure to follow us there. And as it says in the ticker on the bottom, we're also at Cells and Circuits on social media. You can follow me, Chibeze, at Cynical Elysian on social media. Um, we're on or the platform formerly known as Twitter. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Mastodon. Like we're everywhere. So if you want to follow us, be sure to do so. Um, it really helps out a lot. And we also set up some donation pages. So if you want to uh, support us monetarily, you can also do that. We have our PayPal and Cash App, paypal.me/cells and circuits or $cells and circuits on Cash App. So if you want to support us monetarily, you can do so. You don't have to do that, of course, you tuning in means the world to me. But if you do want to support monetarily, that is an option as well. But yeah, I appreciate you for tuning in and being in a live chat and commenting if you're watching on demand. But it really does mean a lot to me that you can be on this journey with me, and we can continue being on this journey. Uh, Hopefully for years to come. But yeah, I don't know, or I still haven't thought of an outro, but with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching. Um, the podcast is coming back at a later date, so I will have an update for you uh, before this weekend. So be sure to tune into our socials for that. But yeah, that's it. I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Um, and I've been Chibeze. This is Cells and Circuits, and I am signing off. Later.